about your choices?
Yes. As you know, Manifesta7 is the first manifesta in the history which is taking place not in one city but in the region. And my aim was to really map those regional, trans-regional dimensions. And this is why the concept of critical regionalism, which is a kind of radical version of regionalism being about local life aware of itself, was a point of departure. Specifically, the city of Rovereto, or rather a town of Rovereto, the smallest town as a host town in the history of Manifesta, of 35,000 people, became a playground, a stage, a platform to talk about what is the proper identity of a certain community, what is the identity of the space, what are the main crucial qualities of the space, like legality, autonomy, emancipation, or sort of ecology of space. To what extent the space keeps its own identity untouched, or kind of negotiates its identity in the passage between what is local and what is global. So I was very much attracted to the work of Ernst Bloch, German philosopher, who 50 years ago wrote a book, The Principle of Hope, and this is how I, in a way, appropriated the title Principle Hope as the main title for the exhibition. I also realized while researching the city of Rovereto that Rovereto itself is in a way a kind of laboratory of principles, because it was a hometown of Antonio Rosmini, who wrote the principles of social justice. It was a hometown of Fortunato Depero, who wrote here in this small town futurist manifesto, How to Deconstruct the Universe. So all those thinkers of radical imaginations, I think, that inspired me to talk about principles, to talk about very crucial issues, and especially one of the most significant crucial issue, which is the hope, because hope is a quality, emotion, a vehicle which circulates between the past. It concerns the present, but at the same time it goes towards the future. So this anticipation, this process of becoming, not fixed but open structure, something which is rather unconscious and it becomes conscious, it's not yet, it had not arrived yet, was in the center of my attention. And as a bridge between the critical regionalism, between this attempt to think the region critically, and the hope as a militant emotion. So the bridge was constructed by two aspects, two elements, namely the vernacular, so the identity itself, the native, the national, and the notion of belonging. So really something what is my own, or how this my own gestalt construction has been made and shaped. And hope is very much a kind of guideline or a shape which conditions our life or the life of human being. And this exhibition is supposed to be, or aims to be, a tribute page to the site in transition, because Trentino, Alto Adige, or Rovereto as Athens of Trentino, is a particular site in passage and in transit. It had been like this for centuries, as the famous Brennero autostrada and a railway that connected north and the south and vice versa. And also a community in transition, and even Manifattura Tabacchi in transition, because we encounter a very unique situation when you still can smell tobacco in this 150 years old factory that was so significant for the social history of this city. The manufacturer, which now ends its operation, but when we worked on it, like within last half a year, we still encountered workers here. So it was a site of very intense, present, physical labor. Manifesta7, Principle Hope, is the first blow of another life into this historical venue. And our exhibition, from the exhibition point of view, from the exhibition design point of view, wants to refer and keep this memory alive. So we didn't remove, we didn't introduce any radical architectural interventions in order to turn this space into a museum-like white cube rather, but we wanted, via positioning of the work and the subject matter of the work, to very much refer to it, so to tune into it in a kind of peaceful and harmonious way. Also to comment in a critical way the history of this place and its current condition, and of course, as I said earlier, what leads leads us towards the future and what the future is going to bring to us. Another venue that also becomes a part of Principal Hub is Ex-Peterlini, early 20th century post-industrial architectural heritage, former cacao factory, textile factory, and at the end public bus garage. So the place in the very heart of Rovereto, at the crossway with the traffic light, participating in the everyday life of local community in a very intense way. This space had been for 40 years abandoned. So as you see, we were having two kind of opposite but complementary situations. Tabacchi, where workers were still there, and Ex-Peterlini, which was abandoned. And this is why local, very dynamic and strong anarchist movement here was very much interested in questioning this abandonment and this decay. Therefore, local anarchists were squatting the place many times, and they really tried to raise local politicians' awareness of how big waste is taking place with this beautiful site. Even this element, this recent political history became part of our process because the last squatting sessions took place in November, when we already were planning Manifesta in this building. And this very particular site and this very particular part of its history was taken as a point of departure for a sort of meta concept for Ex-Peterlini, because Ex-Peterlini in fact is a non-stop exhibition open 24 hours. So you are very welcome to visit this place at 4 o'clock in the morning or very early in the night to watch the sunrise from Zaphos Xagorari's Distant Voices display in a small garden of Ex-Peterlini, or you can contemplate a film by Little Warsaw and Miklos Erhard about the history of Ex-Peterlini, which is 24 hours on. Or you can also see on the facade of Ex-Peterlini 4 clocks that count the local time from the 19th century between all the venues of Manifesta7 from Fortezza down to Rovereto. So the space in Ex-Privat, the Ex-Peterlini, which became a public space by this radical gesture of taking the door away, becomes a very democratic space. It's actually a test how this democratic space is going to function. And there are two anarchist slogan that framed the exhibition. The one is saying, "We are with you in the night." This is the neon by Claire Fontaine, which appropriates the slogan of anarchists, and it's located in Ex-Peterlini. And then another one says, "The house belongs to those who inhabit it," which is a portrait of belonging, portrait of a community. And "The house belongs to those who inhabit it" was a slogan that Runa Islam found on the facade of Ex-Peterlini and appropriated as a title of her work. And this 16mm film you can find here in Manifattura Tabacchi, and this film develops Runa Islam interest in conceptual aspects of cinema, of cinematography, writing with the cinema. So Runa Islam literally writes the slogan, "We are the house belongs to those who inhabit it," with her own camera. And I must not forget about another venue, which is the railway station itself. The railway station, which is called Manifesta7, and it's an idea of turning the station of Rovereto into a sort of imaginary railway station as a site of inclusion, exclusion, arrival, departure, so a very ambiguous site. And it's for me also a kind of realization of a fantasy, of a utopia, to start an exhibition as soon as you get off the train. Because actually as soon as you get off the train, on the platform of railway station in Rovereto, you can find the very first work, which is Riccardo Previdi Last Desire, a billboard, which is going to be exchanged every 2 weeks. The billboard image refers to a photograph taken by Hans Hollein in '68 with a huge cigarette floating in the landscape. The gesture of Riccardo Previdi is that he lights up the cigarette. The cigarette is being lit, and every 2 weeks it distinguishes. So the end of the Manifesta means the end of entire cigarettes, so the new era begins and the smoke fades away, and the new life is inhaled into this region and into the city.
Okay, beautiful image.
Thank you very much.